Hey, welcome back everybody. Today we're doing kind of a mix and match video. I'm gonna get away from the stuff that I know really well and I'm gonna shoot an old bow, actually my wife's crossbow. I'm gonna shoot some bolts that I've never built up or tuned before, and I'm gonna shoot a broadhead that I've never shot out of a crossbow before, and that is the 150 grain Magnus Stinger 2-blade. So stay tuned. All right, guys, this is the best mix and match that I could come up with for you. So let's start with this bow. This is my old bow. It's one that my wife now uses. This is a PSE Invictus 370. Fairly entry-level bow as far as price point goes. It was right about $350 a few years ago when we bought it. But overall, it's been a really good shooting bow. The bolt that we're gonna run through it here today is the Killer Instinct Hypr SWAT XP bolt. So these are the stock bolts that came with my SWAT XP. Never shot them out of this bow. Figured this would be a good one for mix and match. It's a 22-inch bolt, and the total weight of it, if you include a 100 grain field point, is 400 grain. And then the broadhead, like I mentioned in the intro, we're gonna see if we can get a 150 grain Magnus Stinger 2-blade to fly. So these are my compound bow broadheads. They fly great out of that. So I have high expectations for them out of this crossbow. So let's start with building up a bolt and we'll get right to shooting. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about how I went ahead and built this Hypr SWAT XP bolt for that PSE Invictus. And what I'm gonna explain here is kind of a cheating method, just because having done this before and having shot some different bolts out of a handful of different bows, I kind of know a sweet spot that I like to target. So I went ahead and built this to that sweet spot. But I will go back and explain the original process, how I got started doing this and how I think you guys should get started doing this as well. So first thing on this bolt, I went ahead and I removed the stock insert and the stock knock. So on these bolts, the knocks were actually glued in. So you apply just a little bit of heat to them. On the insert end, make sure to screw in an old field point and apply heat to that, and use something like a candle or a lighter. Don't use a big blowtorch like I have done in the past, because what will happen is if you apply too much heat, you're gonna pull the insert out and you're gonna wreck the bolt, just like I did on this one. So apply heat gradually at a time. Your insert, once the glue being heated through the field point is soft enough, you'll be able to pull the insert right out with a pair of pliers. And then the knock, same thing on most crossbows, or excuse me, most crossbow bolts though, these are really easy to pull out. They're just press fit in. So go ahead and pull both ends out and get yourself an arrow square. So I actually made this one on my 3D printer. You can find 3D printed ones, or you can buy other squaring tools, whatever it is that you use. Just go ahead and make sure both your knock end and your insert end are square. After that, I installed a 110 grain brass insert in the front of it. So these brass inserts I got off of Amazon. They are threaded in the back, so if you want to add extra weight, you can. They are not anything crazy expensive, but they seem to work pretty well, and I'll put a link down below in the description for you guys. And on the back end, I installed a lighted knock. So I want to tune with a lighted knock because I'm going to be shooting a lighted knock when I'm hunting. And these lighted knocks are also nothing fancy, but these have worked really well for us. These are on Amazon as well, and I'll put a link down below in the description. I think they're like 13-ish bucks for 6 of them. So with that 110 grain insert, I went ahead and I installed a 150 grain field point. That's what I'm targeting with that broadhead there, that Magnus Stinger. And I paper tuned. So I set a piece of paper on a stand out at 5 yards. I put a target back behind it, and I shot the 150 grain field points through paper, and I shot each of the 3 fletching positions as my odd feather down. So I started with the red one, I then twisted my knock, went to this first white one that's got a mark, twisted the knock again, went to this white one with a mark. And I picked which fletching position gave me the best tear through paper. I wanted a perfect bullet hole, or as close to a perfect bullet hole as I could get through that paper. And on this particular bolt, it ended up being the odd feather down. On some other bolts that I've done, it might be one of the white ones, and then you just draw an arrow on that one and know that that is the feather that is going to go down in between your rail when you shoot. So that, in a nutshell, is how I went ahead and built this bolt. Okay, non-cheater method, which is basically what me and my buddies did all last summer. And I'll put a link down below to the description of the very first time we tried doing this. I think it's called Ranch Fairy Tuning for Crossbows, like 1.0, something like that. Don't pull out the stock insert right away. Leave that in there and buy a Ranch Fairy tuning kit from Serious Archery. They make a 100 to 200 grain kit as well as a 200 to 300. I'd personally recommend the 200 to 300 and then scrounge up some 100, 125, and 150 grain points so you basically cover everything. And with your paper tuning, what you're going to try to do is find the nock position as well as the point weight with that tuning kit that shoots that perfect bullet hole through paper. Once you have that point weight, you can pull your stock insert out if you want and weigh both that insert as well as the point that you're using. That's your total weight up front that your bow and that bolt likes to shoot. So as long as you maintain that, you can mix and match insert weight as well as point weight however you like, and it should still shoot a perfect bullet hole through paper. If you don't want to pull that stock insert out, you don't have to. Just make sure you find a broadhead that is the same weight as the tuning point that you use to get that perfect bullet hole. That's basically where I cheated. I already knew through several different bows that 110 grain insert in either a 125 or 150 grain point seems to shoot really well out of many different bolts and many different bows. So I cheated on that step, but I would recommend doing the tuning kit, figuring out total upfront weight that your bow and your bolt likes, and then go from there. All right, really quick, one other thing I like to do, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I have a number 3 Sharpied on this broadhead. I like to number all of my broadheads and then spin test them with either my bolts or my arrows and just make sure I have a broadhead that spins true with a particular bolt. Magnus stingers, we have never had a problem with these things spinning true out of our compounds. So as you can see, or hopefully you can see, this one spins nice and true. All right, guys, I'm gonna set my phone over here by the target just so you guys can see the impact. It's really light outside. I don't think you're gonna be able to see the bolt flying with the lighted nock with it being this light out. So phone's gonna be here by the target. Field point first, and then with the same bolt, we're putting the stinger on, we're shooting at the block, and this is 30 yards. Sorry guys, I flinched a little bit on that first one, but it still wasn't bad. But let me try that again. No scope adjustments or anything, just another shot. All right, so I don't know about you guys, but I will take that shot with a big fixed blade broadhead all day. So again, this is 30 yards. That's like a 2-inch by 2-inch-ish piece of painter's tape. And it is hitting really, really, really close to my field point. So obviously, like I said, I kind of flinched a little bit on that shot, so I wanted to redo it. This one felt really good. It's a little high of center, just like my field point was. And I guess if you want to get real nitpicky, this field point was maybe like a 1/2 inch off of center to the left. And this one here is maybe like less than 1 inch, maybe right around that 1/2 inch mark to the right. So all in all, I mean, up and down, it's really close to my field point. Left to right, it's maybe 1 inch difference. And you got to give me a little bit of shooter error too. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the best shot with a crossbow. But for me to hit that with a 150 grain Magnus stinger at 30 yards all day I will take that. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Not bad for a mix and match of bows, shafts, and broadheads. To get a Magnus stinger flying within 1 inch of a field point at 30 yards, I'll take that all day, especially knowing kind of my user error and shooting capabilities. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button down below. Also, please subscribe to our channel and definitely get out there and build some bolts, you guys. I mean, whatever shaft you want to use, whatever broadhead you want to use, I promise you can build a bolt to match your bow that will shoot a big fixed blade broadhead like this Magnus stinger. And I mean, if you just want to use stingers, these things fly great. I mean, that flew really, really well out of my crossbow. Didn't make any sound or anything. And to be within 1 inch of my field point at 30 yards, I'll take that. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, be a sportsman, make a sportsman.